Nervous system lecture 3 will also be on central nervous system, but we are focusing on spinal cord, which is the second organ that make up the central nervous system. The spinal cord contains gray matter surrounded by white matter, and they connect to 31 pairs of spinal nerves, which means the two matter we have in the brain are also present in the spinal cord. But in the spinal cord, we have the gray matter at the center, and we have the white matter at the periphery. And the spinal nerves are the nerves that originate from the spinal cord, and there are 31 pairs. Spinal cord is located within the vertebral column, and it extends from the foramen magnum, that is from continuation of the medulla oblongata, to the upper border of second lumbar vertebra. Spinal cord is protected by the vertebra and the meninges. The meninges are: one, the dura mater, which has an epidural space that contains adipose tissue and blood vessels. The second meninges is the arachnoid mater, which has subarachnoid space that contains cerebrospinal fluid. And the third meninges is the pia mater, which is a delicate and closely associated with the spinal cord surfaces. So these four structures, which are the vertebra and the three meninges, they protect the spinal cord. And the spinal cord is about 45 centimeter long and 18 centimeter thick. That is long and cylindrical, and it ends between vertebra L1 and L2. Enlargement of the spinal cord. This is caused by the amount of gray matter in the segment and involved with sensory and motor innervations of the limbs. There are two enlargements in the spinal cord, which are the cervical enlargement and the lumbar enlargement. The cervical enlargement is between C4 and T1, that is fourth cervical vertebra and first thoracic vertebra. And the function of this, or the role of this cervical enlargement, is that: one, it receives sensory input from the upper limbs and also sends motor output to the upper limbs. The second enlargement is a lumbar enlargement, which is between T9 and T12. They also receive sensory input from the lower limbs and send motor output to the lower limbs. So the cervical enlargement is innervating the upper limb, while the lumbar enlargement is innervating the lower limbs. So this is the structure of the spinal cord, showing us the two enlargements. We have the cervical enlargement, which is between C4 and T1, and I said this enlargement is one that receives sensory input from the upper limb and they send motor output to the upper limbs. And the second enlargement is the lumbar enlargement between T9 and T12, and these are the one that receive sensory input from lower limbs and also send motor output to the lower limbs. The spinal cord has a distal end called the conus medullaris, which is a thin conical spinal cord below lumbar enlargement. And from this conus medullaris is where a fibrous extension of the pia mater called filum terminale, which is a thin thread of fibrous tissue, and it attaches to coccygeal ligament. So this filum terminale is one that attaches the spinal cord to the coccygeal ligament. Also, the lumbar and sacral spinal nerves, they project downward and extend inferiorly before exiting through the intervertebral foramina. And below the spinal cord, these nerves are called cauda equina. So all the nerve roots extending below the conus medullaris are called cauda equina. So that is the nerves that extend below this conus medullaris. So this is segment. Spinal cord has 31 segments, and these are based on the origins of the spinal nerves, and also the position of the spinal segment and vertebra changes with age. The first one is the cervical nerves. They sit just above their corresponding vertebra. That's why they are named for inferior vertebra. And all the other nerves, apart from cervical nerves, they are named for their superior vertebra. That is, they sit just below their corresponding vertebra. The function of spinal cord are the following. They help to conduct sensory signal up the cord, they conduct motor signal down the cord, and they integrate certain reflexes. That is the three functions of the spinal cord. Sectional anatomy of the spinal cord. This is a diagram showing us the cross section of the spinal cord, and this spinal cord has a flat structure both front and back, and is epithelial in shape. The spinal cord has a central portion called the central canal, and it is through this central canal that the cerebrospinal fluid flows through in the spinal cord. The spinal cord also has two grooves, which are one, the anterior median feature, which is found at the anterior part, and we have the second, which is the posterior median sulcus. These two grooves are the ones that divide the spinal cord into two halves, the right and left half. The spinal cord section. When you are looking at the section of the spinal cord, there are two roots in the spinal cord. This root has two branches of spinal nerves. We have the ventral root and the dorsal root. The ventral root are the ones that contain the axons of motor neurons, and we have the dorsal root that contain the axons of sensory neurons. And the dorsal root ganglia contain the cell body of the sensory neurons that the axons are found in the dorsal root of the spinal cord. So the diagram we will show next will help us to know which one is the dorsal root, this ventral root, and dorsal root ganglia. This section of the spinal cord segment, they are associated with a pair of a ganglia called the dorsal root ganglion. So this is dorsal root ganglion, and dorsal root ganglion are located just outside the spinal cord, and they contain cell bodies of the sensory neurons. Axons of these sensory neurons, they enter the spinal cord via the dorsal root. So the axons of the sensory neurons in the dorsal root ganglion, they enter the spinal cord through the dorsal root. And we have the second root of the spinal cord called the ventral root. This ventral root contains the axon from motor neurons that carry information from the cell bodies in the CNS to the periphery. And the dorsal and the ventral root, they merge and exit as the spinal nerve through the intravertebral foramina. So the dorsal root and the ventral root, they meet at this point. They merge at this point and exit as the spinal nerve through the intravertebral foramina. The spinal nerve, they are found at each side of the spine, and I said their dorsal and ventral root join to form this spinal nerve. And we also have a mixed nerves that carry both sensory and motor neurons. All the spinal nerves will be discussed separately as a topic under spinal nerve, so that we will be able to know all the nerves that we have in the spinal cord and how they form their how we have their plexuses and which part they are innervating. The spinal cord has also two matter. The white matter is the superficial one, and it contains the myelinated and unmyelinated axons, and they are divided into three columns, namely the anterior, posterior, and lateral funiculus, which will be shown in the diagram. And we have the gray matter that surround the central canal of spinal cord, and they contain neuron cell bodies, neuroglia, unmyelinated axons, and they have projections. So this diagram is showing us the two matter. We have the first one, which is the white matter, that is area surrounding the gray matter, and we have the gray matter, which is the butterfly shape structure that occupies the central portion of the cord. The white matter has three columns, which are the posterior white columns that lies between posterior gray horn and posterior median sulcus. And we also have the anterior white columns that lie between the anterior gray horns and the anterior median feature. And also, this anterior white commissure is the area where axons cross from one side of the spinal cord to the other. And also, we have the lateral white columns located on each side of the spinal cord between the anterior and posterior columns. So this is a diagram to show the three columns of the spinal cord. You have the first one, the lateral white columns, and we have the second one, which is the posterior white column, and the third one, which is the anterior white column. So each of these columns, they contain several fiber tracts, and their fiber tract names reveal their origin and destination. Fiber tracts are composed of axons with similar functions. Also, the gray matter. This gray matter, they have two lateral masses around the that surround the central canal of the spinal cord, which are called the gray commissure. We have the first one, the posterior gray commissure, and we have the second one, which is the anterior gray commissure. And this the gray matter of the spinal cord also has their horn. We have the first one, which is the posterior horn. I can see in the diagram that project posteriorly. We have the anterior horn that projects anteriorly, and we have the small lateral horn that is laterally. And these horns, they consist of this gray matter. They consist of cell bodies of interneurons and motor neurons, and also they have neuroglial cells and unmyelinated axons. So these are the spinal cord, and we need to take note of one, their location, their length, where they begin and where they ends in the vertebral column, to take note of the roots that they have, which are the dorsal root and the ventral root, as you can see in the diagram. And we have the dorsal root ganglion. So each spinal cord has a segment, which is the dorsal root ganglion, that contains the cell body of the sensory neurons, and the axons of these neurons that are from the dorsal root ganglion enter the spinal cord through the dorsal root. And we have the ventral root that contain the cell bodies of the motor neurons, and these two neurons, they meet, they merge to and this nerve exits the spinal cord through the intervertebral foramina. And as also we have said, we said this spinal cord has two matter. As we know, we have the gray matter at the central portion, and we have the white matter at the periphery. And this white matter has three columns. We have the posterior white column, also known as the posterior funiculus. We have the lateral white column, or the lateral funiculus, and we have the anterior white column, also the lateral funiculus. And the spinal cord, it has two lateral masses that surround the central portion of that spinal cord, surround the central canal, which is called the gray commissure. We have the anterior gray commissure and the posterior gray commissure that surround the central portion of the gray matter of the spinal cord. And this gray matter also has three horns. We have the posterior gray horn projecting posteriorly. We have the anterior gray horn projecting anteriorly, and we have the small lateral gray horn that is also projecting laterally. If you look at this diagram, you can also see that from this horn of the gray horn of this gray matter, we have the sensory nuclei and the motor nuclei located there. You have the somatic and visceral nuclei. You have formed the sensory nuclei, and also the motor nuclei also have the visceral and the somatic nuclei around them. So that is the structure of the spinal cord.